So we have it right there once again. And okay, so in the verse that comes after, which is the one we've just seen, is talking about the messenger, the Ummi prophet, and then we have this question, okay, is he talking about his words or his word? If it is his word, then this would be talking about Jesus. So well, let's have a look. So those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whom they find written in what they have of the Torah and the gospel. Yeah, it's Jesus. So to me, this would be already like, yeah, that is very clearly talking about Jesus. We're going to analyze this now in a minute, but let's continue and see if it sounds like Jesus or not. Who enjoys upon them what is right and forbids them what is wrong, and makes lawful for them the good things and prohibits for them the evil, and relieves them of their burden and the shackles which were upon them. So they who have believed in him, again this belief theme, honored him, supported him, and followed the light which was sent down with him. It is those who will be the successful. Now, reading this verse, I would fail to see how Muhammad actually fits into this description at all. And I think it's all very clearly about Jesus. Maybe let's just do a little bit of analysis on this. So let's say that it is Jesus. So if that is the case, he is in the Torah and the Injil, so there is no problem there. Every Christian would say that. And then it says he forbids what's wrong and makes lawful what is right. Okay, yeah, that sounds like Jesus. He removes burdens and shackles. Yep, that actually sounds like him. And when we have this sentence, light sent down with him, sounds a lot like it's talking about the Spirit. Then it ends with those are the successful. It actually that mirrors Surah 3 verse 55, which we will see later. So if it is about Jesus, everything would seem to fit. If, however, this is talking about Muhammad, I think we're having problems in every single line, which is first, if it is about Muhammad, he's not in the Torah and the Injil. Therefore, Muslims point at this verse and says, no, this is our guy, you see, he's in the Torah and the Injil. And the Christian apologists say, but he isn't. Therefore, Muslims say, you have corrupted your scriptures. And then Christian apologists will show all of the other verses that affirm the Torah and the Injil. So there is this huge contradiction that Muslims cannot escape, because if Muhammad is not in the Torah and the Injil because they are corrupted, then the Quran, Islam is false, because in other verses it's actually affirming the Torah and the Injil. So with Jesus, absolutely no contradiction. It is in fact a statement that any Christian would very happily make. When it's Muhammad, everything just falls apart. But I think it then gets interesting when it says he forbids what's wrong and makes lawful what is right. But this is talking about the messenger. If this is about Jesus, Jesus forbids what's wrong and so on, and that's fine. But if this is Muhammad, I think it's very, very sinful to say that he would forbid things. Of course, it would then have to be patched up by saying, no, Muhammad doesn't forbid things. It is Allah who forbids things, but because he is the messenger, he's the one that delivers this. But this is not what the verse says. The very clear book in very clear Arabic says that he, the messenger, the Ummi prophet, forbids things. And that is highly, highly sinful in Islam, as far as I know. Then removes burdens and shackles. I think that's only for God to do. And then the final section as well. The light was sent down with him. I would assume that that implies that for the light to be sent down with him, that he has to be up above. And in the case of Jesus, you could say, okay, so he's the Word and the Spirit, and they are up above, and they are both sent down. But in the case of Muhammad, he wouldn't actually be up there. The light could not be sent down with him. And also, the interpretation of the Spirit would make more sense than what they say in the narrative, which is the light is supposed to be the Quran, which I think it makes no sense. And all of that, together with the fact that I think these verses are talking in the past tense, therefore, how could they possibly be about Muhammad if they are talking about those who followed and those who did things in the past? It would make sense that all of this is about Jesus in the past tense and those who followed him and the light and so on, but it would make no sense for Islam. Any thoughts?
The reference to light, I think of Jesus as light of the world. They're kind of obvious things. My burden is light. Things like that. There's a lot of obvious gospel allusions, and even it is those who will be the successful. Jesus on the cross saying, "It is accomplished." There's the belief in Christianity that Jesus has won on the cross, and that therefore his followers will be successful.
Yeah, the successful thing also matches this. They will be uppermost until the day of judgment.
Yeah. Gates of hell will never prevail against you. What other ones is there? There's quite a few like that.
The fact that this whole idea of the Nur Muhammad, right? The Nur, the light of Muhammad, presumably derives from verses like this, where it simply is staring you in the face that there is something divine going on here, right? So
Yeah.
if there's light coming down with the Ummi Prophet, and this Ummi Prophet is the Hijazi, Muhammad, then there must be something like the Nur Muhammad, and then the Sufis can extrapolate that into ideas of preeminence and almost, up to the point of being uncreated, approaching the Christology of the New Testament. So
Yeah.
verses like this, you can see how the progression would work. It's initially about Jesus. The ideas and theology of Jesus are therefore, because of the language of the verse, in sort of esoteric circles, become mapped onto the eventual developed Muhammad character.
Yeah. And just related to that, where it says elsewhere, his word. Well, if it's Allah's word, are we talking about created word or eternal word? So obviously, if you go for eternal word, you're straight back into divinity again, like what you're saying.
Okay, so I was just saying that the word Ummi, it means Gentile. It means the one from the nations. It comes from Ummah. So Ummah and Ummi, it's the same word. So it does not mean unlettered. This is something that is straight from the sin. This is 100% sin. You see, so it's a very important distinction to know that it means the one who is a Gentile.
And Murad, I can add to that. Shout out to Eric the Great. He put this to my attention, that in the book of Daniel, we see the term that's used for Gentile or nations. In that context is Umayya. So we can then therefore, place it to here. And to what you're saying about the unlettered coming straight from the sin, it's like, yes, you can see how the progression would work logically, right? Like there's some bias in it, but it would be, okay, they're from the nations, that they're the nations are not learned in the Torah, they're unlettered, unlearned. Maybe then it goes all the way to the extent of illiterate, right? But this whole progress that we're describing here, this isn't inherent to the word itself. It comes then later into it.
Can it have a sense of being like Gentile has a kind of certain connotation, but the prophet of the nations or prophet for the world, could it have that sense?
Universal prophet is what I was sort of reading it as for a while.
Universal, yeah.
Well, in the very next verse, it says, I'm the prophet to you all, actually, specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I have it as national, because this is the exact adjective for nation, even if it sounds a bit weird, because you could say today international. So the international prophet. So because it has this nation in it, you have to have nation in the word Ummi. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And I could speculate maybe that there might have been an incentive, because look, we have to keep in the back of our mind that whoever was writing this, presumably they're writing it about Jesus. And if they were to be using this term Gentile, it begs the question, wait, don't you know that he was from the tribe of Judah? Right? So it's like, wait, do you think that he was a Gentile? So maybe it's evoking a broader point. Maybe it's questioning the category distinction of Gentile and Jew entirely. Maybe it's putting forward that he, this Jesus character, this Messiah character, was himself of the peoples, right? Almost like, you could imagine like a people's movement of like, yeah, he was for everyone. He was of the peoples. He wasn't only in your exclusive category, Potentially, that's me speculating.
Well, also maybe if it's intended for a Jewish audience, perhaps it's trying to argue that this Jesus isn't just for the Jews, but beyond that, that maybe has a certain message behind it.
Yeah, please keep in mind that Ummi, originally it will be 4 letters. Alif, Mim, Mim, Ya. Umami. So then the word got shortened, and then you have this shadda, this small diacritical mark, so that it's shortened. So An-Nabi al-Umami, it would be the prophet of the nations, the one who rose up from the nations. You see?
Yeah, that still evokes the question, though, then why was the author describing, in accordance with our reading, why was the author describing Jesus as this term? It still begs that question. But that's something that can be solved in another venue.
Even we have this little verse here. I thought actually I would add it because it actually uses a similar word. So from Matthew, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Like the fact that actually talks about burden as well.
Sorry.
It's clear. I mean, like if we look at the verse, I mean, it's talking about all these different aspects, right? Like with the whole light of the world, like you were suggesting, right? Like the light that comes down with him, relieves burdens, makes unlawful what is wrong, makes lawful what is right.
Yeah.
It's very
And
reminiscent.
the yoke is a shackle you put on an ox. So it's literally it's a shackle. They put it over the neck of the ox to drag a plow. So it is
something funny. This word is actually al-aghlal in Arabic, which I have as shackles. I found that in Aramaic it means yoke. So when it says don't shackle in your deen, it would be something like don't yoke in your conviction. So
bingo.
Yeah, which is kind of linked to the whole idea of like the shirk concept, the idea of yoking in your deen, as in presumably to yoke Messiah with something else.
Exactly, but I'm happy that this is exactly the word, because this is very sharp. This is the Aramaic word.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. It takes a village to actually get to the bottom of this 1400-year-old mystery.